What's up guys, it's KamTendo and welcome back to our Hypes, Hopes, and Discussion series for Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. If you missed the last episode, we looked at the rivals in the games. We went back, saw where they fell off, and we found out a way to try to improve them in these next games. I do polls like this on Twitter all the time. If you guys want to influence the next video I upload, make sure to follow me at twitter.com/KamTendo64 and comment down, get engaged with me. I love to hear your feedback and I love to, be more involved with you guys. I want to start a comment of the day series, so let's start that. Today's comment of the day is, of course, who is your favorite evil team? This can go from the core series games to the side games like the Ranger series or Coliseum or Gale of Darkness. I would love to hear your guys' comments and I will pick one of your comments and feature it in the next episode. So if you guys want to be featured in the next episode, make sure to comment down below who your favorite evil team is. Today's video is, of course, evil teams based on our poll results on Twitter. You guys have influenced the next vote. So today's, again, evil team video. Evil teams now, they aren't the same as they used to be, and to some people that's a good thing, and to some people that's a bad thing. For example, Team Rocket, they were pretty simple, right? They just stole Pokemon. It was a huge deal because they were criminals, but compared to evil teams in later games, like going to post-apocalyptic levels of goals, they kind of seemed like your run-of-the-mill villains. So again, we're gonna add Team Rocket sort of mid to bottom tier. Then we move on to Generation 3, right? You got Team Magma and Aqua. They sucked, right? Their goals weren't really that, didn't make any sense, and they tried to make it make sense in ORAS and it kinda still fell off to me. So we're gonna put them kinda bottom because their goals it felt like it was gonna bite them in the butt more than it bit the people they were trying to affect in the butt. Like flooding the world, how are we gonna eat? Like stuff like that. Or, droughting the world, that makes zero sense because then we'll all just die. They're also knocking out like a huge part of the population. We move on to Generation 4. We got Team Galactic. Base Diamond and Pearl, after playing BDSP, and I'm starting to realize this, Base Diamond and Pearl were awful games, and BDSP kind of went back and shown me just how bad the plot of those games were because there was no build up at all and their goals made very little sense. Meanwhile, in Platinum, they wanted to make a new world because they gave Cyrus like a cool backstory and stuff. I don't really remember what it was. I just know that he had a lot more depth in Platinum versus Diamond and Pearl in BDSP, where they couldn't even bother to give him a name. He was just boss until you fought him and then he was Cyrus. Their goals, I'm gonna put them probably like B at the best, but they're C. They're pretty C. They're mid. Then we move on to Generation 5, and you guys know me, I'm a huge Gen 5 fan, but Generation 5 kinda set a precedent for evil teams. They made the player, not only the player, they managed to almost convince an entire region to give up their Pokemon because we didn't really know how they felt when they fought. And yeah, some Pokemon may have enjoyed battling, but some maybe wouldn't. And there are such thing as abusive trainers. We've seen that in media, like in the anime, in cards, even in the manga, and in the games themselves. We've seen abusive trainers. But the beauty of Team Plasma is that they were hypocritical because they wouldn't practice what they preached. They would abuse Pokemon the same way they claim to help them. Like with the Muna in the Dream Yard, they would kick the Muna and abuse it just so they can capture its dream energy, if I remember correctly. I can't really recall what it was called, but they would abuse that poor Muna, and even then they would like go behind their backs and they would steal Pokemon rather than trying to convince the trainers. And there were some people in the team that knew the real goal was to take over the region rather than actually liberate, and there were some people that joined Team Plasma hoping that they could bring a difference to the world, and they failed. And then in Black and White 2, they just became full-on terrorists because they're like, well, the original goal didn't make up, let's just take it back by force. Like, Team Plasma was a pretty metal team, and I love the dynamic they had with like groups like the Shadow Triad and the generals they had, like Zinzalin and stuff, like the Seven Sages. They were a really cool dynamic, and you actually felt like almost kind of like a cult, pretty much. The whole night system and things like that, and Getsis manipulating In spending his entire life thinking that he was going to bring a difference to the world, only to realize that he was just a tool this entire time. Team Plasma was a pretty great team. You can hate Gen 5 all you want, but you can't ignore that Team Plasma was a really good team. So then we move on to Generation 6. Generation 6 was something. All right, I'm playing through Gen 6 right now. I understood what Team Flare was trying to do. Like, they wanted to destroy the world, but they wanted to leave themselves so they can repopulate. And Lysander was willing to kill Pokemon just to make sure the world was beautiful. beautiful, which when you think about it, that's pretty messed up. That's extremely messed up. Like, this man was about to destroy the world. It was pretty messed up. And then you have to think about it, right? The game themselves didn't build any of this up. In the opening scene, when you first meet him, right, he's talking to Diantha and he's telling her how she should stay beautiful because that's her calling in life, and he doesn't want her to be old and ugly and stuff like that. And like, when I'm reading this, I'm like, that's kind of creepy. That's extremely creepy for you to say. The champion of the region, he was literally like, oh, you should not be old, you should stay beautiful because that's your calling, and if you become old, you'll become ugly and you'll contribute to this world being ugly. And Diantha was like, okay, weirdo, and she just walks out. And it was super weird reading the scene because, like, as a kid, I didn't really get, I always was like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Why would he say that? Now I'm thinking this guy was kind of sociopathic. Like, seriously, he was insane. The reason why Team Flare fell off was because they had no build up to their goals. They would just go around taking random things and gathering up energy, invading power plants, robbing Pokeball factories, and you're just thinking, how is this gonna, help make the world beautiful? Because you're just making this beautiful region ugly, if you ask me. And then you got Malva, who had nothing to do in the story, but she's apparently like one of the top Team Flare admins, but you don't meet her until the Elite Four. And all she does is tell you how she hates you because you ruined her life and stuff. Like, okay, thanks for not contributing to your own team's goals. And then she was like, nobody's gonna believe that I was a part of Team Flare because I'm like attractive. Nobody suspects the news reporter, apparently. Team Flare, while they had a cool goal, I don't know, they didn't like utilize them well. And plus, the legendaries kind of didn't feel like they were needed at all in the plot of the game that they were in. You have a game about life and death, and throughout the story, Pokemon, we heard about a war, millions of Pokemon dying for the sake of one selfish man's wish to bring his Pokemon back, and you're telling me Yveltal and Xerneas hardly had anything to do with that? They may have, I could just be misremembering, but it felt like the legendaries themselves were useless in their story. With everything revolving around them, they felt useless, and then when you find them, they're in a coon-like state. So that was Team Flare. I'll put them probably they're in the same tier with Galactic. Okay, they're alright, not the best. Then we move on to another good team. I know people say they hate Skull for many reasons, like they felt like the jokesters, but you have to remember the purpose of Team Skull. Yeah, they were the evil team, but they weren't the evil team. Team Skull's purpose in those games were to be a distraction from the actual threat, being Aether Foundation. Team Skull and Aether Foundation were literally working together, and Aether Foundation was giving Team Skull Pokemon to use to capture more Pokemon so Aether Foundation can quote-unquote stop them and make themselves look good. That's what makes that dynamic of them so well. It's not like Gen 3, where it was two war teams fighting each other for the sake of to see who can end the world first. It was two teams pretending to fight each other to make one look good, while under the table they give each other resources and information. Gladion thought he was free from his mother. He was never free because she was always keeping tabs on him. Same with Lily. It was kind of insane to think about that Lusamine had all of that power in the region without, her not being president or something like that. I mean, she technically is a president of Aether Foundation, but she has no actual power in the region. But she was controlling so much under the table that it was kind of insane. And then when you find out, I mean, let's face it, it was obvious that she was the villain because the game literally opens up with Lily escaping from the Foundation. Like, it was obvious she was the villain. But had that cutscene not existed at all, the twist that she was the villain, we still would have known she was the villain. But that twist would have been such a good payoff. She was written really well, like her whole story with the toxins and her going insane. I don't know what's up with Pokemon and abusive parents, but abusive parents always end up being the best Pokemon villains. Like, I don't know why they can't write a good villain without them being some sort of abusive parent for some reason. I don't know. Game Freak's kind of weird with that. Some people even said that Team Skull fell off because while they were the threat, they weren't the actual threat. I thought that dynamic was a pretty good dynamic. So both Team Skull and Aether Foundation, I'll put Team Skull in B, Aether Foundation in A. Team Plasma is S tier, by the way. I forgot to say that. They're S tier. Now we move on to our current evil team, or I should say our falling evil team, because Gen 9 is coming. We have Team Yell. Now this is where the problem comes in. We thought that that Team Skull was this joke evil team when Sun and Moon was initially revealed. We didn't think of them as much of a threat, thought they were jokes. We thought that they weren't going to be that serious, and we found out that they were kind of serious because they were undercover Aether Foundation. They were with Aether Foundation, so it was kind of serious, but at the same time, it kind of wasn't. But when you came to Team Yell, there was nothing serious about them. Their entire goal was that they wanted to stop you so their boss's sister could become a champion. Like, they had nothing to do with roles, nothing to do with the Macrocosmos organization, nothing to do with the legendaries. They just wanted to get under your skin just to distract you. And those are like the worst types of distractions in video games, because I know evil teams' purposes are to be a distraction for you, to like make you dive off your adventure and stop them. But when it came to these guys, their entire character was that they were the distraction. Their purpose was to literally annoy you and get in your way. They weren't doing anything bad. They weren't harassing, like, they were harassing people, but they were harassing you exclusively because you were in their way. They would make other trainers stop the gym challenge because they're like, Marty needs to be #1, and it was super annoying because they were jokes themselves. They were just angry fans. They were rabid fans. They were so annoying. Nobody cared. Like, and then when Pierce got revealed, he was such a cool character, but again, nobody cared because Team Yell was so boring of an evil team. And then when the actual threat happens, I think Team Yell proves a point that Pokemon kind of needs the evil team to be involved with the overarching plot, because Chairman Rose and Olina as solo villains sucked really bad. Like, they sucked super bad. Chairman Rose, there was build up. There was no build up of him being a villain at all. He just dropped that out of nowhere. The only evil thing he had done before his villain reveal was abandon Bede, and that wasn't really like, oh no, because Bede kind of did break the law, but I digress. He didn't do anything villain worthy. Meanwhile, all these other villains in Pokemon, they have evil teams to build them up, and you always knew that these evil teams were doing what their boss told them to do. All these evil things they were doing because they were told to do so by their boss. Even with Team Skull and Aether Foundation, Team Skull was listening to Guzma, who was listening to Lucamine. You felt that there was always this higher power telling the evil guys what they need to do. With Team Yell, Pierce didn't even know that Team Yell was doing these evil things. He didn't approve of that at all. That was just them doing that because they wanted her to win. Pierce was actually upset that they were doing that because he didn't want her to have an unfair advantage, and she didn't want the unfair advantage. Team Yell was literally acting out of their own selfishness, and it was extremely stupid because when the boss doesn't want them to, and when the boss's sister doesn't want them to, then they are just jokes. They are literally jokes. There was no threat in that game. Even when the main villain showed up in Sword and Shield, there was no actual threat because he couldn't even control the thing he was trying to do. Even in like with Lucamine, she controlled the Ultra Beast. I mean, she fell off in Ultra Sun and Moon, but we don't talk about that. No, we don't talk about that. She was an intimidating villain. She abused her kids. Getsis was an intimidating villain. He abused his kids. Lysander was pretty mid. Cyrus was intimidating in Platinum, not in Base Diamond Pro, but he was intimidating in Platinum. And even Giovanni, he was intimidating in, I would say, the remakes, not necessarily the originals, because everybody in the original was one note, but I digress. The evil teams up until Gen 8 all had reasons for us to fear them, except for Gen 3 and Gen 6. But you get the point. These villains and evil teams all gave us reasons to fear them. In Gen 8, we had nothing to fear. These guys were complete jokes. And when the actual threat showed up, we were kind of done. We were like, oh, finally the villain appears, but it's like near the end of the game. Why should I care? Literally, why should I care? There was no build up. Why should I care? The storytelling in Gen 8 was not good. I'm sorry, it sucked. But how can they improve these guys in Gen 9? Obviously, just make them more involved and make the villains show up sooner. And I mean, when I mean sooner, I don't mean twist villains. They've done twist villains for the past 3 generations, and all those generations we knew they don't need twist villains. I want the bad guy to pull up and say, I'm the bad guy. Fear me, here's why you should fear me. I want the evil team to do evil things instead of just, we're gonna rob this little kid, this random route because we don't care. Like, we don't need that. I want it to be just like Gen 5 and some of Gen 6, but I want that to actually make sense. I want them to rob things, like invade corporations and things. I want the reason why they're invading to make actual sense rather than just doing it just to do it. Because if Team Flare is going to end the world, why do they need to go rob a Pokeball factory? Like, if you're going to kill Pokemon, why rob a Pokeball factory? So, I don't know. But again, I want the evil team this time around to actually be involved with the plot and not be Team Rocket anime tier joke characters. I want them to be around researching the legendary. I want them to actually go to these ruin sites and see what the legendary is about and how they can revive it. I want them to almost succeed because we do have to stop them. I want them to get close to their goal so we can come and stop them and we actually feel like it's payoff. We can feel like we saved the world instead of stopping the gym challenge or whatever we're going to do in this game to go take care of a minuscule threat to us. I want us to actually feel like we're saving the world. I want us to feel like it's a big deal this time around. Like, Eternatus was scary, yeah, but there was no build up to that at all. It just kind of fell out of nowhere. Like, in Gen 8, we didn't feel involved with the plot because every time the plot was brought up, Leon handled it. So it was super boring for us as the player. Like, what was the point? But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. If you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to like, subscribe. Also, don't forget to follow my Twitter, link in the description down below. And again, don't forget our comment of the day. Who is your favorite evil team? We will pick well, I'm the only person on this channel. I'm gonna pick a comment in the next episode and feature it here on the channel. Again, I'm gonna do another poll for the next video. If you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to like, sub, notification bell. I have a Patreon now as well. And I'll see you guys when I see you. This is KamTendo signing out. Bye. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Team Yellow's F tier. Anyway, see you guys.